Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. Joining me today is Jose. Jose, you're back.
Back from the dead, resurrected just like a ghost would. Yep, I'm here. What's going on, man?
The ghost brought you back from the dead.
They did. Everything's good, though. We're back in the world of Destiny for now with the Taken King just around the corner. I mean, how could I resist?
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Sean, you're here as always.
Thank you for having me again. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you also. Today we have some exciting stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the vault space and ask, did Bungie fix the problem? We're going to talk about exotics getting left behind in year 2, make some of us sad, some of us happy, and our 7 favorite fixes with the Taken King.
Nice.
So let's start with the vault space issue. So they announced that there is a new collection system and a new amount of vault space, almost doubled, more than doubled for armor pieces.
Some categories, than others.
Yeah, from 36 slots to 72 for
Very
both armor and weapons.
I will say they tried a little too hard to build up the anticipation for what was happening in the vault space on that stream. Like, I was a little bummed by that.
Oh, yeah, and then they're just like, it's bigger, bye.
Yeah, it didn't need to be that way. Like, I feel like it could have been done a bit better, but...
they hit the collections ahead of time, and it's like you should have hit vault space and then collections.
Sure.
Like, okay, so we added more space, but we also have this collection system.
But to be fair, collections, I think, is the real shining star here, right? Because the idea that... So explain to folks what is collections in case they missed that.
Yeah, the collection system is kind of like every time you get an exotic, you unlock an exotic blueprint, and you can look in the collection system and see, okay, so I have Gjallarhorn, and I can just buy that on any of my other characters. I have that across all characters now.
It costs Glimmer to buy it from the
it costs Glimmer and some marks, but I mean, it's a great system for like just, okay, I don't use Monte Carlo that much. I don't need this in my vault. I can just dismantle it and keep it in my collections.
And like the inventory, these terminals for collections are accessible in the tower just by the Vanguard.
Yeah,
so
and it's not just exotics. It's exotics armor and weapons. It's
different
emblems. It's emblems, shaders,
sparrows, and ships.
We haven't said is that this is a great solution for the collectors out there. Like you and Fran, and I don't know if this is true of you, Sean, but you guys have been absolutely hoarding exotics. Like a lot of people who play Destiny, they want to have as many as they can, and I feel like that mentality becomes counterintuitive to the vault space.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to get an exotic that you don't really use, but you just want it to want it. So I think that this is cool, like a checklist kind of in between for that system.
I think so. I mean, I'm one of these guys who I collect exotics because that's kind of the mentality of the game for me. And having to make difficult choices as a result of limited space ran counterintuitive to what I believe the game is about, right? Which is gear chasing. So I think in combination with doubling the amount of space that you have and adding to that the fact that the stuff that takes up a lot of space in your inventory now or in your vault now, things like sparrows, ships, emblems, and shaders.
You don't need to hold on to that stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is going to go into its own collection. I think your people are going to have more than enough space to work with, and I think that ultimately this solves the issue. Some people were a little salty just because they wanted filtering. Fran?
Yeah, Fran.
Oh, yeah.
Organization.
Fran Mirabella the third had a problem with that. But, I mean, I do see where he's coming from.
It does filter, though. It filters it by DLC. I mean, I don't know why
it's organized by content type, right?
Yeah.
So it's like year 1 primaries, year 2 primaries, year 1 exotics, or whatever, you know.
I think it's great.
Call me slightly selfish, though, but I do sort of wish that this applied to legendary weapons as well. I feel
agree,
like there are some
especially
legendaries that have vanished with expansions.
So
especially raid weapons, right?
We don't know that it doesn't. That's
sure, but we don't know that it does. Yeah, well, that's fair.
We haven't seen that anywhere. They've only talked about exotics. They haven't talked about legendaries. I think, like Jose said, this needs to be also included for raid weapons. Raid weapons are like why you play the raids, and they're the hardest items to get.
I mean, there were people who watched the stream that pointed out that there were things that looked like terminals or collection terminals in the area where the vanguards are that they did not access during the stream, which feasibly
could be the same like
the
vault too, where there's a bunch of terminals for the vault in the tower. I will say though that that I don't know. I feel that so remind me again, when you collect the ghosts, it unlocks a card in the grimoire. Right?
Yeah, with
and
the
that's
dead
sort of
ghosts.
the baseball card mentality of like, hey, collect them all. I just feel like with some of the weapons, they can kind of get in on that as well. You know, sort of.
That's a good idea.
Your Destiny profile on the app or in the game not only shows like what you're currently equipped and what makes you so good and what's in your vault and what's in inventory, but maybe even like, hey, these are the weapons I've obtained, and look at this like roster of like good stuff that
like
I've
a
done.
showcase of sorts. Yeah.
It's,
well,
it's
you
sort
guys
of a
know what
showcase.
people are going to do, right? They're
What?
going to share a picture of all their collections with their buddies, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but definitely, I think the vault. It's odd because talking about this, I feel like doubling the vault is a good way around some of the problem for sure. But I do think that when we start discovering the new sets of weapons and things, at least you're not going to worry about the exotic side so much. But we're going to see the same problem happen again with legendaries, and maybe this collection system has to happen all around. Like
You know what?
those two.
The first weapon everybody's dismantling, No Land Beyond.
Oh,
it's like,
no
you can
question.
stop taking up
Yeah.
space, thank you.
You ever see
Goodbye.
that YouTube video where it's like someone like trying to say that No Land Beyond is like the best sniper
Oh,
ever?
yeah,
Just, like,
and it's
trained
just him
sniper on a
dying.
close course, and it's just just headshots everywhere.
I have played against a guy whose name was No Land Beyond, and he only used No Land Beyond,
That's
and
funny.
he wrecked everyone. It was crazy. Yeah,
That's pretty impressive. Props to you, sir.
yeah.
Got to be pretty good to use that weapon. So what do you guys think? Do you feel like this is going to fix the problem, Jose?
I think it's a good. I think it's a short-term solution. Like I think that we're going to hit this again in year 2, where an expansion is going to come out, or the vault is going to be crammed again, because with each expansion they're giving us a new set of weapons, especially if there's a raid involved. You take into account a lot of the other events in Destiny, and if they give us new equipment like that, that's going to eventually eat up that space. So I hope that maybe this collection system's just the start, and I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit too ambitious with that thinking, but I do think I want to see it that I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah.
But it'll be a short-term solution for sure, and it's a good one. I think it is a really good one for now.
What about you, Sean?
Time will tell, but I think they fixed it. Right
Yeah.
now, I don't have problems with vault space even. Like, it's sometimes I'll have to be like, okay, well, this legendary, I know I'm not going to use it, so you got to clear some vault space. But with all of, like, I would say 80% of my vault space is taken up by exotics. All of those are moving to collections. I don't really carry that many materials, and then all of that will be solved by doubling the space. So I don't see myself coming anywhere near filling up the 72 slots that we've gotten. So if, like I said, we really can't know for sure how many weapons there are yet, but if it's as many as they say, then maybe we'll see an issue in the long term. But for now, I think they fixed it.
I think they've done a great job. I think this is a
You've been
really
complaining
good.
about vault space all year, so I want to hear your take on this.
So I have like a pain just setting up a character to play anything, like moving around weapons and everything. I think this is going to address a lot of the problems initially. My concern is the new infusion system, where you trade in a legendary to make one of your favorite legendaries more powerful, and I think people are going to start stockpiling legendaries. So the problem we're going to run into is like, okay, I have all the raid weapons, but now I need to start getting rid of stuff. So that's a little worrisome. But for right now, I think it's great.
I think that's good, though, because now, I mean, while it does make legendary weapons kind of a resource, I mean, I play a lot of PvP, and I get a lot of random drops in PvP that are legendary weapons that end up just getting sharded.
Yeah.
And I gain nothing from that. At least now I can use those to better the weapons that I already have that I use all the time.
But the thing is, you're not going to shard it. You're going to want to hold on to it because you're chasing a weapon that you want to power up. So you're going to be holding on to all these legendaries that you don't really want, but you're going to save to shard to make something, or to infuse the weapon with to make it more powerful.
Sure.
Infusion is like you trade in a better exotic to make like your Suros auto rifle more powerful.
It's the new version of Ascension.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going
basically.
to introduce a slight tangent, but I promise I'll keep it short. Where is my auto dismantle for greens and blues?
Oh,
Where?
yeah.
So
Where is it?
those are actually becoming more powerful now. So you're not going to want to auto dismantle like your
I'll believe
blues.
it when I see it, Ligiri.
Your blues are actually going to be Taken King level, light level items. So you're going to be maybe
You may want to use some blues.
You
for
may want to be
a
using
week.
blues instead of purples for a
Okay.
while. So for now, no, you don't want to.
Okay, where's my green
dismantle?
dismantle?
Yeah, that's true.
Green dismantle, like immediately, because you know what? I have to move forward through that choke point, and I picked up a green. What am I doing with this?
Yeah.
Guess what? Dismantle.
Yeah.
Do you even go out of your way to pick up green
I try
engrams when
to
you see them?
avoid them wherever possible, because I'm just like, ugh, this is gross. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just went there.
Moving on, guys. We're going to talk about how do we feel about the exotics that are getting left behind in year 2. Galahorn, for example, will not be upgradable past its year 1 damage level.
Major bummer for me.
The great
major
Gjallarhorn
bummer
of 2015.
Right? They've thought of Galahorn as a problem because everybody's married to one weapon, and they want you to try out other things. You know, they don't want you to be playing Destiny forever using only Galahorn.
I think though that they're looking at the problem a little wrong in that the Galahorn became a bit overpowered. I mean, Galahorn became way too powerful. I agree, but it was kind of Destiny's Excalibur. Like everyone wanted it, and that's all you did for it. And I agree that maybe too many people got married to it, but that's where your enemy types and your different damage types were supposed to be like, okay, well, Galahorn's not going to do anything to this creature, and that ended up not working out. So I don't know, what was the deal there?
Well, the way you address it, at least if I'm Bungie, the way you address one weapon being too powerful isn't by nerfing the weapon, but by bringing other weapons that are less powerful in line with it by making them better, right? Like, I understand the idea of not wanting to create a culture where you're tied to one weapon, because I agree. Like, I think 3 years from now, if you were still using the same weapons because they were that good, that would be kind of a boring game. But I don't think that necessarily applies to exotics, because exotics are the whole reason people chase weapons in the first place. And two, the philosophy behind exotics is that they're supposed to be good and long-term and more powerful, right? So it applies even less to the very top tier, which is Gjallarhorn. Like, I would love to see it still relevant and usable in year 2, although maybe it's not the tip-top tier anymore. Maybe there's another rocket launcher or machine gun that's as good, maybe not edging out a Galahorn even a little bit.
Here's why it really, really bothers me. It's because the boss encounters are all bullet sponge boss encounters. Do a ton of damage. Now, if you changed your boss design philosophy, you could make it so that bosses require precision damage in a specific spot to make them change forms, and then you have to use like a pulse rifle or a sniper rifle to hit a certain spot.
Well,
it's a problem with how they've been designing their bosses, not with Galahorn, really. It's stop making all your bosses something you shoot for 30 minutes.
Well, I think we saw evidence of that thinking of changing a boss design, especially in the House of Wolves. The strike in House of Wolves, where you are basically chasing the boss through the whole stage, is a good line of thinking of like, okay, we shouldn't just pitch you in a final encounter where it's just Damage Sponge City. Like that infamously frustrating
Valis.
Oh my goodness, Valis Tark. But I think that that has to be the solution. I feel like the bullet sponge boss is not a fun climax anymore. Like, it isn't. It's just after year 1 of Destiny, I think it is universally agreed that is the wrong way to go, and that's why you're right. Galahorn became super precious to people because of that. The Skolas fight in Prison of Elders, or any of the bosses in Prison of Elders, were torn apart by Galahorn. A 3-party Galahorn, fully leveled, you can get through those bosses and no problem. Became the issue. But I'm bummed that they nerfed it, because I do feel that
it's not even a nerf. They're just not letting you upgrade it anymore.
True. No,
I mean,
they are nerfing it, though. It's still powerful for all of year 1 content, but it's going to get replaced by another Galahorn-like item.
I guess I just want something. I want replacements. I want, my next Excalibur, the thing I'm chasing, that unicorn that I'll be chasing for a while. Don't get me wrong, it was a frustrating ride.
Yeah.
And the minute Xur sold it, like I told you, I was just, half awake looking at Twitter, saw the tweet that said, "Oh, selling Galahorn." The sheets flew off. I ran to the PlayStation, bought like 3.
Turn on faster.
Bought 3 Galahorns, and was just like, okay, now I'm ready. And
I am complete.
I am complete. But it's kind of a cheap ending for me, right? After a year of investment in the game,
you didn't get that rewarding moment where like it dropped during Atheon.
And I got Fatebringer, I got Hawkmoon, I got those moments. I never got it with Galahorn, and I think it was more of a loot issue than it ever was a, just have Xur go out and sell it issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean too? Like, that's been a key problem in Destiny that has needed some addressing, is that loot. And we're going to talk about this, I guess, later when we talk a little bit about the favorite fixes.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the bummer. And that's the thing that has turned a lot of my friends away from Destiny, is that you go through a fun encounter, and even though you had a good time with your friends, loot is just there to remind you that you are but a small guardian, a tiny person in this universe, and that's a shame.
Sean?
I think it's a bummer that a lot of people worked really, really hard for it, got it, and now have no reason to use it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that...
You just got yours recently, right?
Yeah, I pulled mine from a Nightfall maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've really... Oh, I did. Yeah, I tweeted it. I was super stoked on it, and it is very powerful, and I'm super glad that I had the ability to experience it pre-nerf or pre-year 2. But what I don't...
We got time, September 15th when the Taken King comes out.
Totally.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind
But I do think that it's kind of a bummer that, knowing that can happen to even the best of weapons, how am I not to think, okay, well, I'm going to chase weapons in year 2. I'm going to spend a lot of time getting them and working to level them up. But in the back of my head, there's this chance, when year 3 comes around, I may not be able to use this anymore. Do I even really want it all that much? I think the top tier of weapons should always be relevant. Not the most relevant, not the top tier all the time, but if Galahorn was the most powerful thing in year 1, and it undoubtedly is, it should be powerful into year 2 and year 3 and still be a relevant option. Yeah. Because you worked so hard for it. It's the coolest thing in the game.
No,
and now it's not because you can't use it. That sucks.
But I do think that a game like this is always going to be evolving and changing, right? And then it becomes, at least for the player base, the stories. Were you there for loot caves? Were you there when, you can raid the chest multiple times?
Oh, yeah.
And the friggin' conga line of people just take it off on sparrows and coming back. And I feel like to some degree that's going to happen with the weapons. And I don't know if I'm okay 100% with it, but I guess I acknowledge that that's part of that history and that stuff that we get to talk about, as people who play this game.
For me, with the Prison of Elders weapons, that encounter with Skolas is just incredibly frustrating. It's not even that fun, and you have to invest so much time. I'm just like, you know what? And the weapons aren't good.
Hard.
The weapons aren't that good.
Oh, the weapons are terrible.
Yeah, so it's just why do I want to do this encounter I don't really like or enjoy for weapons I don't really want? And then the bounties suck too. You have to wait 2 days. That's another
fun
topic. I don't think so.
I thought Prison of Elders was fun.
I thought it was fun maybe the first time I did it. And then after that, I'm like, oh, great, I got to do Skolas. All of his burns are turned off.
But you had Skolas at his most frustrating, where I feel like when they did change that fight,
I'm getting hit through walls by his stupid thing.
Yeah, they fixed Skolas. I would urge you, and if you're down to do it, I would even be down to play with it.
No, I ran Skolas 2 days ago. It sucked.
You still didn't like it?
Yeah, they have one-hit kills turned on right now.
Oh, well, that's just
light switch.
Yeah, they have light switch turned on, so
light
if you're
switch
running
is one
away,
of the harder ones to deal with.
You picked a bad week.
That's how it's supposed to be, though. Endgame content is supposed to be tough. I think the rewarding part of it is that it's tough. If it were easy,
there's
it wouldn't be
no
fun.
reward though in Prison of Elders, in my opinion.
Okay, it's like PvP. It's saying
we're kind of going off on a tangent too. So
yeah, but I mean, that's like saying, okay, well, PvP is really tough and there's no reward in just beating someone, right? But there is. I think
PvP is rewarding. You can do bounties.
Even if you
get drops.
Even if I don't get a drop.
Yeah.
If I slay someone so definitively that they know that I am a better player, there's reward in that for me particularly. So I enjoy the challenge, even if just for the challenge's sake. But I agree.
Yeah.
With endgame content, you should be rewarded, and it sucked that Prison of Elders didn't really get there.
Yeah. So anyway, to wrap up the thought that we were on about leaving exotics behind, Fran wanted me to make sure that I pointed out that he's actually really happy that the Gjallarhorn's being left behind, because it's going to give us a chance to experience new weapons and to stop worrying about one particular weapon. So he's kind of excited to see what's going to replace Galahorn, what you're going to be able to chase in year 2.
I mean, that is a valid point too. I give props to Fran, because
that was going to happen anyway.
Well, I know, but it was ridiculous to me that I talked to some friends about, hey, let's run Prison of Elder Skolas, and you got a Galahorn? It's like, no. Then I was like, then you probably shouldn't do it. And this was pre-fix, and I'm just like, this isn't how the game should be.
Yeah.
And I adore those friends. And I adore the honesty, but that's what it kind of turned into.
Yeah, it did. Definitely.
So hopefully, I'm not saying leave Galahorn behind, but find cool other weapons that will meet it.
The community in general on this topic, and this is the last thing we'll say about it, is that they've been very divisive. Half the people are really upset. They're like, oh, sure, Xur sells it, and then, of course, they take it away. And then the other half is just like, you took away my weapon. The other half of the community is like, I'm glad you took away the weapon, because now people will shut up about Galahorn. They can chase new things.
But I just bought it. No,
yeah, exactly.
No, I'm going to enjoy it till the 15th. Yeah. That's it.
Moving on, so let's talk about some positive things. Let's talk about our 7 favorite fixes. 7 because it's Bungie. 7 favorite fixes that the Taken King is going to bring in. Jose, why don't you start?
Can I pick any? Because I see we have our list.
Pick one.
Okay, just pick one. I guess I'm curious to talk about how.
Good
I'm
segue.
I'm taking too long. Sorry, story mechanics. I think. I mean, there's very little evidence of this clearly, right? Sorry, I had a senior moment, folks.
Yeah.
There's very little evidence of this at the moment, but in the trailers that have been released, you are seeing more and more cinematics, and you're seeing more and more of what appears to be an attempt to tell a story again and kind of rescue this story from itself. Because right now,
definitely,
it's
not great now.
We're not invested. We don't care. There are barely any characters. The darkness is this nebulous thing, and guess what? You slayed it, and now all these other villains keep showing up, and you're
We
like,
did?
well, what is this about?
We slayed the darkness.
Well, you kind of slayed something at the end of the game. What was that? The 3 statue business.
I'm
sure there's a grimoire card.
I thought that was like some Vex god.
The Vex were sucking something out of the Traveler, so he couldn't heal. And
Proof
now
to my point.
Yeah. I had to read. Like, I just wrote Destiny in 5 minutes, so I actually know what happens in the game now. And so you allow the Traveler to begin healing again. That's what happens at the end of Destiny.
Nice.
But wait, what was that thing? A Vex god thing?
It was a Vex heart that was taking away light from the Traveler.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The thing that's in the black card.
It's a heart.
Of course.
The heart.
Okay.
It was shaped like a heart. Anyway, but this proves my point. And I'm sure there are some people listening to this going, how can you not, appreciate the story? I'm sorry. When that lady showed up at the end giving me a gun, I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah, right.
Like, why?
You showed up a few times, then you bailed, then you give me a gun and say, what?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to experiencing how they sort of invest us in these characters and, really sort of develop their stories.
The cutscenes, the voice acting, you show up with your fire team in the cutscenes. That stuff looks awesome. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, definitely. All right,
Sean?
what's your next point? Yeah.
I'm really stoked to see new additions like ghosts and artifacts having stats because I think one of the cool things about anything sort of MMORPG like is that you have a lot of options and customization in your character itself. But in Destiny you only had like 3 armor slots, 4 armor slots, right? And like 2 weapons or 3 weapons. And now we have yet another avenue to explore and collect gear that will affect our character directly. Where before, your ghost was just, it didn't do anything. And now
we have totally aesthetic. You had a red one or a white one that you could choose from.
Yeah, and you only got the red one if you bought a special
which I did.
Yeah.
Collector's edition.
Nice.
Or whatever.
The Vanguard,
the limited
DLC,
edition.
whatever.
I forget which one it was.
Waste of money edition.
Sorry, it was. Although I do love that steelbook
Sorry.
case. But yeah, I think it's cool. Like one of the most interesting things for me from the stream was that as soon as he moused over the ghost, I was like, oh, the ghost has stats.
Yeah.
Like I wonder what other ghosts out there.
Spirit Bloom. It has intellect and discipline stats.
Yeah, intellect, discipline stats.
Light.
I wonder if it'll have light. I would love to see, there's all kinds of things that could be on Ghosts, 10 seconds off your grenade cooldown or whatever, right? Like, there could be a lot of different cool things that would make me want to go out and find every ghost out there and customize for different situations.
Well, and it might turn into a system like Phantasy Star Online, where the mag was this thing that sort of helped you out in a fight. And, I mean, it's not going to be exact, but it was really cool to have the system where you fed it something and it transformed into something else, and you got different buffs.
Totally.
That was a cool thing, and your ghost was just something you pulled up to pull up your sparrow or leave the planet, really.
Yeah, and so that all just the sort of what it could be, how much depth there could be added to the game via these new additions that is super interesting.
Yeah, your ghost affects your light level because of its defense rating, because it's an average of all your gear. So it's going to be really exciting.
And then, we know nothing about artifacts yet, but I have this strong inkling it's going to be a very powerful.
They require level 40, so they're going to be important.
During the stream, the artifact block was locked, so we couldn't even see. Yeah, we couldn't even see what it was or what it did. They won't tell anything.
Probably next stream or the one after.
Yeah, I would be very interested. But I'm brought back to the times of in World of Warcraft there were artifact weapons which were so powerful that only one person per guild could have one. Mm-hmm. They were that powerful. And I wonder if these are something like that. You could only have one per account or something like that, or one per character. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Yep. I think one of my selections is definitely this. This is the best time to start playing Destiny, especially if you're a new player. If you've been waiting or kind of interested, start playing now. You can get an item that automatically bumps you up to level 25, so you can just play with your friends if you want to do that. You can experience the new story with Nolan North voice acting and cutscenes and the new quest system and all these improvements that they're making with this DLC. I think it's going to be a great time to start playing the game.
I agree.
Well, it also includes all the other content too.
Yeah, all the other content. You got Prison of Elders, you got all the raids.
And it's $40.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
no.
cool.
That's for the expansion. You'd have to pay more than that, I think, for just the Taken King.
Wait, $60 for the whole thing, though, all of it, right? Yeah,
60,
that's such a good deal.
So wait, is automatically? I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but is automatically jumping to level 25 though for a new player mean that like to heck with all those pish posh with your story missions from 1 to 20?
Basically,
like, I don't have to do
probably.
Basically, yeah, you don't have to do that if you don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're only gonna get a bunch of greens and blues anyway. Like it's just.
You could go back to it later. You can try out the earlier raids, but yeah, you can
experience the deep immersive storytelling
confusion that we did.
Yeah, we had no idea what was going on.
Okay, I said this earlier, but the entire collection system to me is just a very smart play. I think that I have been exposed to a lot of collector culture, either through the other show that I run here on IGN, based around Nintendo stuff. Yeah, NBC, or even just growing up in like baseball cards or like comic books. And I do feel like the exotic systems for collection specifically, we don't know if it applies to Legendary, like we said earlier, is a step in that direction of like, hey, I've got this, I got Gjallarhorn year 1, or I've got this exotic, I've got Suros Regime, I've got, Vex Mytho, whatever. I do wish I almost wish there was a way to kind of separate like when you got it to show that off a little bit, because I feel like it does feed into that, but I think that's a really smart system, and I think it's going to really help with Vault Space a ton. Yeah. Because you collectors out there, and you know who you are because you're listening to the show, that collect exotics, now you have a reason to not really fret over keeping something you ultimately don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that also. Sean?
Bounty system.
Oh, yeah, the bounty system's way better.
All of the changes to the bounty system.
So what are the changes? Give people like the quick.
So before you had to access bounties by going to your inventory and like tabbing over and then mousing over the individual bounty to be able to see your progress. Now you can like X to track that bounty, and when you press select, it'll bring it up in your HUD, your ghost HUD, and you can just look at all of them there.
PS4.
Whatever.
The trackpad.
The better place to play Destiny.
No, never.
We're gonna have that sweet exclusive content.
You're gonna have to wait until year 3.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. But what's so cool is you can now track the bounties. There's all sorts more bounties. Like there isn't just like the 10 bounties you can get from the bounty tracker plus whatever the Queen's bounties and whatever. No one did Eris's, but Eris's as well. Now like the Crucible Quartermaster and the Crucible Handler have PvP exclusive ones. The Bounty Handler still has PvE exclusive ones that are like about patrols in the open world. Yeah. Then you have all sorts of other bounties that you can complete.
Turn them in anywhere.
Yeah, from the vanguards and stuff. You can turn them in anywhere. It just seems like they've separated the things that you do in the world into way more bounties that are way better organized. And so now it seems like you're just going to have a lot. You're not punished for not wanting to do anything else. Like I never did the patrol bounties because I hate going into the overworld and just being like looking for, the little blinking things and then scanning cracks. Like I thought that was boring. And so I only ever did PvP bounties. And if there were a strike bounty, then I would do those as well. Now, like if all I want to do is strike bounties, I can do that. If all I want to do is PvP bounties, I can do that. Or the overworld bounties, I can do that too. Like they're giving me all sorts of choice and rewarding me for doing whatever I want to do, which is awesome.
My next pick has to be the faction system and how picking a faction actually carries weight. Yeah. Like before you would just put on whatever armband and then level that up to 3 and then put on a different armband. Now when you pick, you're locked into that faction for a week. Not only do you get faction rep, but you get Vanguard and Crucible rep at the same time. Yeah. So like you get a chance to get those really, really sweet faction specific weapons or armor. You can unlock the ships easier. You're more likely to unlock the shader that you need. They're kind of fixing that whole totally random shader thing. They really, really did a lot of great work with the faction system.
And now the rewards are worth having. They look cool. You can match them so that all of your gear is like of the same set and color scheme, and you look pretty cool. I don't know about you, but that Future War Cult Hunter helmet where it like marquees across and it says FWC, like that's super cool. Like I want that.
Way to represent. I like that.
Last one, Jose.
The last one
Number
is
5.
that leveling and light is now how it should have always been. So
That's how I feel.
Yeah, if you played Destiny from 1 to 20, you level 1 to level 20, you played a game that was very different than the end game, where in year 1 the end game became tied to I have to find pieces of armor that have a certain light level, and only by high light levels would I be able to then increase my level. That was painful. That actually made me stop playing for a while after post level 20, because it was so infuriating that you really didn't have a say in how you were able to level. And
then with Dark Below, you just go to the vendors and buy gear. Like, they made it so easy after that. It just didn't make sense.
They did, yeah. And Vanguard marks started playing more of a role. And it's almost like once you hit 20 in Destiny in year 1, you needed a plan. To be able, a plan and luck to be able to get through all of those levels. And so now the fact that it's going to stay that way is actually a little jarring to me. Like, I'm still like, pinch me. Is this real? Like, it still is something I can't quite believe they finally gave in on and are going to do. And I'm excited to now discover, and I say excited because I mean that, like, how slow is it going to be to chew through these bars? How many strikes am I going to have to do? Is there some BS cap that they're not talking about yet?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it's going to be that hard.
Well, I know, but like, look at Vanguard marks. You only allow like 100 in a week. Like,
well, they're fixing that too.
Yeah, well, they're fixing that too. But I just hope that behind all of this is not some, surprise. You're only allowed to level up like so many times.
I wonder if that's going
to control the player base.
I wonder if that's going to break the achievements, because there's like get the max Vanguard marks for a week, but there is no max. Oh, that'll be interesting. Let's see if they break their game.
Though.
There is not. There's
a cap.
Well, there's a cap for legendary marks, but there's no Vanguard marks anymore. So I wonder if that's going to break the achievement and trophy.
Yeah, so
anyway,
this is
totally
a favorite
separate,
fix, though, and I do want to emphasize that. Like, I know I'm a little worried also with part of this, but I am very glad that this has happened, and I'm excited to experience the game this way.
It's going to give you that constant feedback, like, hey, you're doing well, you're getting more powerful,
Yeah, I just wonder. I wonder if it nullifies light entirely. Like, I'm very interested in seeing like what a level 40 with 100 light looks like versus a level 40 with 300 light. Like, how much more powerful is that guy? Because what it's going to matter. I mean, you have to imagine it's going to matter in like Iron Banana or in raids when
Iron Banana?
Yeah. Sorry, it's something Alfredo says all the time, and now it just sticks with me because I think it's funny.
Nice.
But before, your level cap was supposed to matter, and there was varying sort of degrees to which it did when in Iron Banana. But like now it's like, if I'm level 40, how much more effective am I with light? Like, is light actually effective, or is it just sort of like a vanity number? I would want to know.
Yeah, but it'll be great to have that celebration, to your point a second ago, where World of Warcraft, like, there was a whole subculture around ding, you leveled up, and that, like, Destiny started out that way and then lost it. And I'm just like, well, it'll be nice to have
20,
that
that's gone.
Yeah, everyone will see. Oh, you're
it's a
level
reward thing.
Now.
It's like being at a casino and getting a little bit of money. That's why people stay there.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me this week. Really good episode, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Jose, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I can't promise. I will not guarantee or.
You're doing our review, right?
Yeah, I will be signing that. I'll be writing that in a couple weeks when we get the game. I'm really excited to get my hands on it again. Started playing more again, so that's nice too.
Have anything you want to plug before we go?
Not really. I mean, if you're listening to this and you have any interest in Nintendo, I run a show, Nintendo Voice Chat, and there's a fun Super Mario Maker IGN challenge happening that you should totally be watching because it is hilarious.
Cool.
I hope.
Finnegan?
Follow me on Twitter at I'm Finnegan, and add me on Xbox Live at Finnegan #II, Xbox One for life. Also, head over to go.ign.com/store for a lot of our really cool stuff.
That's right.
There's a Fireteam chat shirt, so represent. Fran would be angry if we did not mention that.
Good point.
If you're listening to us on iTunes, definitely subscribe and leave us a review there. #1 podcast for Destiny. Put it in there. Let us know.
Yeah.
And that's it for me.
Yeah, for me, just follow me on Twitter at Destin Legary. I do a lot of stuff here, so who knows when the next thing's going to be coming out. And until next time, thank you guys for joining us. And it's Guardians out. Jose still won't do it.